What I'm going to be going over today is going to be AC2, the Treasure of the Hideous One. This is probably better known as the mini-adventure located in AC2, The Combat Shield. Written by David Zeb Cook in 1984, David Cook is known for being the lead designer of 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the Planescape setting, and he wrote The Revenge of Rusak, which I have previously reviewed. Now, The Treasure of the Hideous One is a short adventure designed for character levels 4 through 7 of no specific party size. This would be an excellent little introduction to the Expert series to basic series adventurers who just reached level 4. The adventure is introduced to the players by a treasure map located wherever you decide to place it. Now, it's not really a map per se, it's more like a note found on wherever you decide to put it, and this note is called the Veteran's Tale. The module advises that you can either A, read it to the players, or B, give them a photocopy of it. I highly suggest that you give them a photocopy of it because it's pretty long. Suffice to say that inside of it is the recollections of a soldier sent out on an expedition 100 years ago, led by a man named Colonel Rosentos. This expedition was sent out to claim land for a noble, but contact was lost, and rumors say that they pretty much deserted their original cause because they found a large amount of treasure. Last contact, according to old stories, was at a village called Loam. And the Veteran's Tale letter that your players should have picks up at where those stories stop. The letter expands by saying that they headed from the village of Loam and went 7 days towards the setting sun, which in normal terms means heading west because, sun may rise in the east but sets in a better place. But in this setting, apparently the sun sets in the north. Now, the module includes 4 possible treasures you could give out to your players, and they are meant to be either given singularly or combined. It's whatever you decide to do. Now, there are 6 numbered encounter locations on the map, which you don't have to use. Zeb offers the map as a suggestion. Alongside these 6 encounters, Zeb has included 2 optional random encounters you can add in wherever you please. The first of these is a 10-headed Hydra, which players will initially only observe as 10 crocodile heads, which will be sitting in the swamp watching them until it reveals itself as a 10-headed Hydra. This Hydra will first attempt to entangle a player, and then drag that player into the swamp, drown them, and then eat them. The second random encounter provided appears to be some sort of swamp beast. This is actually a giant swamp plant that just looks like a monster, and it's pretty deadly. But all the players need to do is get 20 feet away from the monsters, which are actually just 9 hit die stalks of the plant, to get away from this creature. Now that I got the 2 random encounters finished, let's go back to the 6 numbered encounter locations. The first of these is going to be the grave of a soldier named Grisbaldos. This ghost will possess one of the players for an hour, demanding they slay Rosentos. If they refuse to make a binding oath to do so, the ghost will haunt them for the rest of their lives, or until banished by a high-level cleric. Now, while Grisbaldos actually possesses a player for an hour, he can share information with the rest of the party about what happened to the expedition, at least up until the point where he was murdered. This is all mentioned inside the Veteran's Tale. One of the biggest pieces of information he can actually share is about the Hydra, how there's a Hydra in the swamp. So you may want to have this encounter happen before you have the players run into, the Hydra. Maybe. Now, the second encounter location is actually just a fight between the players and 35 bandits led by a 7th level elf. Now, it doesn't really expand on why the bandits are there or what exactly their entire intentions are, but I guess it just comes down to bandits are just bandits. Now, these bandits will actually flee after 20 of them are killed. The third numbered encounter location is called the Slough of Despair. Cue the never-ending story's Swamp of Sadness. Now, this entire encounter is just mind games for the party. It expands further on what you should do with them inside the book. But that's all I'm going to say on it because I don't really want to have flashbacks of the never-ending story. Goodbye, Artax. The fifth encounter is a burned-out village, which is the first village that is mentioned in the Veteran's Tale. Not much is found here, except for surprise ghoul attacks. The fifth encounter is the other village mentioned in the tale. This encounter can go one of 3 different ways. The villagers can lead them to Rosentos' Isle. Remember, Rosentos led this expedition 100 years ago, and he is just a human. Or the player characters can be captured by the villagers and given to Rosentos, sans weapons and equipment. Or the players can just, ignore the village and end up at the 6th encounter location after being lost for a bit. This all relies on how the PCs handle this encounter. Now onwards to the final encounter location, number 6, which actually has its own separate map. Now when you come to encounter location number 6, the PCs should get to the island at night, and they are greeted by a 35-ish-year-old man who says his name is Rosantos. When confronted about how he could be Rosantos, as in the same guy in the Veteran's Tale, he will say that he is the son, it's probably better to say that he's the grandson, of that same adventurer. Now, this is untrue. He is exactly the same Rosentos, except now he is no longer human, he's a vampire. There are clues that he's a vampire, but nothing comes out obviously. It's not like he's wearing a cape and he has pointy teeth or anything like that. The players aren't really warned about him beforehand being a vampire. It's just like when he brings them into his house, it can be observed there's no mirrors, there's no fireplace, there's no food. He has excuses for each one of these. Zeb's kind of covered all the bases inside the module. Now, Rosentos, in that 100 years, has actually charmed everybody on this island and all the villagers in the second village, and he's using them all as a replenishing food source. The book doesn't really explain why or how he became one, so that's pretty much going to be on you. Rosentos will reveal that the treasure the PCs seek is located at a Cayman village. Now, Cayman are small, intelligent, lizard folk sort of people. Now, as the players go to obtain the treasure, the Cayman will confront them, and this can go a couple ways. The players can interact with the Cayman, in which case they will inform the players that Rosentos is a big bad man, no man. And if they agree to kill Rosentos, the lizard folk Cayman people will just let them take the treasure. Or the player characters can, just murder the entire village and take the treasure, if that's what they want to do. But should the players actually do the right thing and try and kill Rosentos, they will find it's not as easy as just slaying him like a normal monster. Rosentos has a series of, coffins, which are actually just giant urns located all around his island. Once they first slay him, his body will actually retreat into one of these urns, and the players will have to find out which urn he has retreated in, and then finally finish him off. And that's all the adventure is. It's pretty short. You could probably finish this in a session or 2. Now, you may be wondering if there's any owlbear in here, or 2 of those swamp monsters you saw on the front cover. There's not. None of them are in this adventure. Unless you decide to put them in there. Zeb's kind of made this thing entirely module. He even says in the initial description it's designed to be placed in the middle of an adventure for your players. This is a good adventure to introduce players to how to defeat vampires, however. Now, if they don't have any experience with vampires beforehand, there is a way that you can actually help them slay this creature. You can actually have Grisbaldos' ghost inform the players that he's a vampire and how to kill a vampire. Now I'm going to get to actually, reviewing or rating the adventure. The adventure rating itself, I'm going to give it I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's a cool little adventure that can take a day or 2. For value, this is actually also going to get a 4 out of 5. Now, getting the actual physical copy of the book is going to cost you around $40 to $60 on eBay. However, you can get the adventure including the, scans of the screens, the DM screen, for $2. The PDF is $2 on DM's Guild. So just go get the PDF. I mean, it's literally, what, 8 quarters? You get the scans of the DM screen, which you can just print out and put inside of your own homemade DM screen. And you get an entire adventure for $2. For deadliness factor, I will give this a 3. It's not too deadly. I mean, there are a couple scary monsters in here. You have the 10 hit die Hydra, you have the Swamp Beast, and you have a vampire. But each one of these are just one-offs, and if your players are smart and work together, they can defeat each one of these things. The bandits, they're not really going to be that bad. I mean, bandits are still only like 1 hit die monsters. You kill enough of them. If you have a magic user that actually knows how to use his spells correctly, they're done for. Altogether, I'm going to rate this I'm going to rate it a 4 out of 5. It's pretty good. I mean, $2, you can't beat it. That's probably actually helping out the score right now, is how much the PDF costs. Well, I hope this helps somebody out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.